Good evening. If you would like to include closed captioning to the presentation, please click the three dots found at the top of the right side of the toolbar. In the drop-down menu, I'm sorry, select Turn on Live Captions. Welcome to Southern California Edison's Wildfire Safety Community Live Stream meeting. My name is Carolyn Sims, and I am the Senior Manager in our Customer Engagement Division for Southern California Edison. We greatly appreciate that you took the time to participate this evening, as well as submitting your questions when you registered for the meeting. I would also like to thank those counties, as well as the state and federal elected officials and their staff for joining us tonight. We appreciate that you always have open lines of communication, and we look forward to our ongoing partnership. Please know that if you get disconnected or if you need to drop off early, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on our website at www.sce.com/wildfire. Slide. As always, your feedback is extremely important to us, and we encourage you to submit questions. Because we have a large number of attendees, we will be taking questions through our chat window. You will be able to see the chat in the function in the toolbar. We ask that you please ask questions that are relevant to the topic and the material being presented. We will do our very best to answer as many questions as possible in the allotted time. Next slide. I am joined by the following presenters. We have Craig Hart, the Principal Manager of Wildfire Safety, who will share our wildfire mitigation activities and our efforts to reduce the need for PSPS, which is the Power Safety Shutoff. We also have Ryan Bullard, who is the Senior Manager of the Customer PSPS Support and Accessibility, who will share information on our customer care and customer assistance program. Next slide. In addition to our presenters, I am also joined tonight by the dedicated team members from our local public affairs team. These individuals play a crucial role in supporting the community during wildfire incidents and ensuring effective communication. So we have Dave Ford, who covers Los Angeles County, Jeremy Goldman for Riverside County, Melissa Boyd for San Bernardino County, Jessica Fernandez, Orange County, Natalie Yanez for Santa Barbara County, Andrew Thomas, Ventura County, Brian Tharborough, who manages Fresno, Madera, and Tulare counties, Matthew Carlo, who manages or covers Indio, Mono, and Tuolumne County, and last but certainly not least, Cal Rossi, Kern County. If you have questions, concerns, or need assistance related to wildfire safety, please feel free to reach out to our team members. You can find their contact information through our local community, and you will also encounter them at community events, town hall meetings, and doing outreach activations and sessions. Please don't hesitate to approach them. They are here to help. Now, before we move on to our formal presentation, let's hear from one of our executives, Raymond Ferger, Director of the Wildfire Safety. Take it away, Ray.
Thank you, Carolyn. And thank you to all our customers, community partners, and stakeholders joining us this evening. Let me start by saying that we recognize how important it is for you and your families to have electricity. Our company is focused on providing safe and reliable service to our customers and communities. Our number one priority is and will always remain public safety. As California prepares for the upcoming wildfire season, we want to provide you with the latest information on how we're preparing and what you can do to be prepared. During a wildfire season, we implement something called public safety power shutoffs, or commonly referred to as PSPS, to reduce the threat of wildfires. And currently, we have a portion of northern LA County under considerations for PSPS for this Friday and Saturday. We know you may have experienced PSPS events in the past, and we know that outages are painful and annoying to your everyday life, and we have heard your concerns. We're committed to reducing the need of PSPS outages, and we'll be sharing more information during our presentation. Today, we plan to cover these topics related to SCE's wildfire mitigation activities, how we are reducing the need for PSPS, and customer programs and services. We recognize our customers have experienced challenging times due to the ongoing threat of wildfires, and we hope you find the information tonight beneficial and it addresses your questions. Next slide, please. Before we go into the formal presentation, I just want to give you an overview and a highlight of SCE's service territory. We serve about 5 million customers through a vast array of poles and wires. It's 1.4 million poles and towers and 51,000 miles of overhead distribution and transmission conductors. That vast array, it expands and goes over 15 different counties. And you can see how diverse this geography is going to be. We go from southern Orange County along the coast to Santa Barbara. And then along the Arizona-Nevada border, we go from Blythe, Mono Lake areas, all the way down into Imperial areas. So it's a really large, vast, diverse land that we're serving. And nothing highlights this more than we have the lowest point, Death Valley, in the contiguous 48 states, and the highest point in the contiguous 48 states, Mount Whitney, in our service territory. And even more amazing is they're only 70 miles apart. So we have a lot of diverse geography, a lot of diverse terrain that we need to maintain our electrical facilities for. And then when you really look in, and what we're here to talk about tonight is high fire areas. You can see about a quarter of our service territory is in high fire areas. And we are focused on executing our comprehensive portfolio of wildfire mitigations to improve and reduce the risk of wildfires. To reduce the risk of wildfires in our service territory. Because first and foremost, we're here to serve our customers and provide safe and reliable power. Following our presentation, we will open it up for Q&A to answer your questions. And now I'll turn it over to Craig Hart to provide an overview of SCE's wildfire mitigation activities. Craig, take it away.
Thank you, Ray. Good evening, everyone. So with our wildfire mitigation plan, Edison uses a holistic and layered approach with our primary objective to protect public safety. Faced with an ongoing threat of more frequent and catastrophic wildfires, California needs more resilient infrastructure. Edison continues to make the grid more resilient in high fire risk areas, improve reliability and reduce wildfire risk through the areas listed here on this slide. When we look at high fire risk inspections, Edison performs annual inspections of equipment in high fire risk areas for maintenance, repairs or replacement, prioritizing the highest risk structures. We annually inspect portions of our transmission and distribution equipment that comprise about 99% of our wildfire risk. When it comes to vegetation management, we continue to inspect, trim, and remove trees to prevent vegetation from coming into contact with electrical equipment and potentially sparking a fire. Tall trees that could potentially fall into power lines beyond our standard pruning zone are also assessed and mitigated. Our vegetation management work also includes vegetation removal at the poles and around power lines, as well as LiDAR surveying. With public safety power shutoffs, or PSPS, remain a tool of last resort to mitigate wildfire risk during the most severe and dangerous fuel and fire weather conditions. We recognize that these outages are difficult for our customers, and we're dedicated to reducing the size, frequency, and duration of PSPS. And I'll go into more detail later on in this presentation when we talk specifically on PSPS. And then lastly, situational awareness. The size of our service area in high fire risk areas and its diverse terrain requires a dense network of weather stations and wildfire cameras to monitor location-specific, real-time conditions that help inform operational decision-making. Our weather stations provide wind speed, humidity, and temperature data that's updated every few minutes. The data allows more targeted de-energizations during PSPS and is accessible to the public at sce.com/weather stations. Edison generates forecasts of weather and fuel moisture conditions out to 7 days. These forecasts help identify when PSPS events may be needed, as well as when critical weather may affect the region, such as lightning, heavy rain, snow, and strong winds. The live feed of the high-definition wildfire cameras in SCE's high fire risk area are part of the Alert California network. Fire agencies and the public can view the live feed to monitor wildfire conditions at alertwildfire.org. Next slide. When hardening our electric grid and infrastructure, the first thing that we look at is our cover conductor. Before I go into these different areas that we focus on, at Edison, we use innovative tools, technologies, and practices to further protect our customers and communities from the ongoing risk of wildfires. We're replacing industry standard bare wire with cover conductor, one of the most effective measures to prevent potential sparking. Cover conductor significantly reduces the possibility of the power line from arcing or sparking if there's contact with a flying object like a palm frond or a balloon. Fire-resistant poles. We're replacing deteriorating wood power poles with composite poles or wrapping poles with fire-resistant wrap, which reduces the risk of damaged poles during an emergency and allows us to safely restore power more quickly to customers. For protective devices, our teams have also worked diligently to refine protective devices and sectionalization to reduce the number of customers who experience PSPS. We're installing fast-acting fuses to interrupt electrical current more quickly and reduce the risk of ignitions when there's an electrical fault, such as when a tree falls on a power line during high winds. We're also installing remote-controlled sectionalizing devices to segment portions of circuits during public safety power shutoffs, which help minimize the number of customers impacted. We're also focusing on undergrounding. As our cover conductor program starts to come to an end, our focus is on undergrounding, where we've seen that underground wires can reduce the frequency of outages during storms and also reduce the risk of wildfires caused by electrical infrastructure. While it takes much longer to construct and is more costly and difficult to maintain and repair, especially in mountainous and rocky terrain, Edison is committed to determine locations where targeted undergrounding can provide further wildfire risk reduction. We've completed about 26 miles of targeted undergrounding in targeted high-risk areas based on risk criteria and feasibility. Lastly, we have RevCol. Edison will also be implementing more widely rapid earth fault current limiters, especially in locations where cover conductor has already been deployed to further reduce the risk of ignitions. RevCol are systems that are widely used in Australia to reduce ignition risks, and it can rapidly reduce the current if a power line comes in contact with the ground or a tree limb and is therefore effective at reducing energy phase or ground faults. It can also help detect and reduce energy release from a certain common class of faults. When partnering with, next slide. We're also partnering with local agencies. Within our wildfire mitigation plan, it calls for continued support and expansion of regional fire agencies. This year, SCE is providing about $36 million to its local fire agency partners to fund the Quick Reaction Force program. The partnership with the Orange County Fire Authority, Los Angeles County Fire Department, and Ventura County Fire Department is year-round wildfire suppression across SCE's service area. The Quick Reaction Force is made up of the world's largest fire suppression helicopters, including 3 helitankers and a command and control helicopter. Its unique nighttime firefighting capability can help slow the progression of a wildfire during the early stages of a fire. Next slide. We've invested heavily in hardening our electric system in parts of our service area that pose the greatest risk, and we've seen good results from these efforts. In fact, through these efforts, we have reduced the probability of a catastrophic wildfire associated with its equipment by 85 to 88% since 2018. This is a significant improvement within a short period of time, and we've achieved this reduction by implementing several important wildfire mitigation in our high fire risk areas over the past 5 to 6 years. Last year, we installed about 1,220 circuit miles of cover conductor. At the end of the first quarter, we've installed a total of more than 5,700 miles of cover conductor, which covers about 60% of our overhead distribution lines in high fire risk areas. If you think about that, that is longer than the distance between Los Angeles and London. And we're installing another 1,050 circuit miles this year. Since 2018, we've also completed more than 2 million tree trims and removals to prevent trees and vegetation from coming into contact with power lines and equipment. We've also conducted more than 1 million inspections of our equipment in high fire risk areas from the ground and by air using helicopters and drones to determine if repairs are needed, prioritizing the riskiest areas every year. We've also installed more than 1,740 weather stations and 190 plus HD cameras throughout our service area. With all our grid hardening work, we saw no ignitions due to failure of cover conductor last year. We've also seen a 92% less PSPS outage time in 2023 compared to 2020. In terms of customer support, when there's a PSPS, we have 68 community resource centers and 8 community crew vehicles available. To support our customers who are most vulnerable, we also provide free critical care backup batteries to our medical baseline customers. As mentioned on the previous slide, the Quick Reaction Force provides year-round wildfire suppression across the service area. Last year, we responded to 64 unique fires in Edison's service area and dropped nearly 840,000 gallons of water and over 95,000 gallons of fire retardant at night. Next slide. So looking ahead, by the end of 2025, we expect to be approaching 90% of total distribution lines hardened in our high fire risk area. 300 miles in our high fire risk areas are already underground. And in the past several years, we've proactively hardened about 5,700 miles of our overhead lines, primarily through cover conductor. We're planning to harden an additional 2,800 miles by the end of 2025 through covered conductor and undergrounding. Next slide. For public safety power shutoffs, that continues to be our tool of last resort. It's not in our DNA to turn off power, and we try to de-energize as few customers as possible for as short a period of time as required. We also pre-place our teams in the field to inspect and restore power as quickly as possible once the risks have died down. And before we turn off power, we actually run a risk calculator to make sure that turning off power is going to provide more community safety than keeping power on. Edison also uses forecasts of weather and fuel moisture conditions out to 7 days to help identify when PSPS events may be needed. After PSPS events, Edison crews have found equipment damage and tree branches contacting bare power lines without a protective coating, which could have ignited fires. This illustrates the importance of PSPS outages and installing coated electrical wire to continue reducing PSPS events. We continue to reduce the size, frequency, and duration of PSPS events as more wildfire mitigations are implemented. We reduce the number of customers in scope for PSPS through grid hardening, And we've also improved weather and fuel forecasting accuracy and precision. So we're expanding the number of machine learning forecast locations. We're also retraining machine learning models with newer observations and better input. We're developing machine learning models for additional weather variables and continuing to look for innovative ways to address forecast uncertainty, including by use of machine learning and additional forecast models. Next slide. So if you're familiar with PSPS, you know that we send customers who might be in scope for de-energization a series of notifications starting 2 or 3 days out. We then continue to notify these customers as the weather system approaches to keep them informed. Notifications are provided via email, text, voice call, and TTY formats, and address level alerts. As long as we're not faced with a sudden change in the weather, we notify customers up to 4 hours in advance of shutoff. We shut off power and as we prepare to re-energize. It's a complex cadence of notifications made more complex by the work we do to try to avoid shutoffs. For more information, I encourage you to please visit sce.com/PSPS decision making, which is all one word. Therefore, there you can find a fact sheet and a technical paper about how we decide when and where to shut off power. Next slide. For our PSPS communication, we use different platforms to communicate to customers, communities, public safety partners, and other residents in affected areas before, during, and after a shutoff. We encourage all our customers to update their account information, as well as manage their outage notifications in the Customer Preference Center. The SCE Consolidated Outage Map is also available on sce.com, which includes current outages, upcoming scheduled outages, and active PSPS. We understand PSPS disrupts the lives of our customers and communities. And in Ryan's section, he'll talk more about the resource available to help customers prepare for and get through PSPS safely. I'll hand it off to Ryan now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. We can go to the next slide. Sorry, I meant you changed it. You can go back to the first one. I'll be covering a number of PSPS outreach and customer support offerings that Edison helps provide. I know that we've gotten a few questions, so hopefully this section will help address some of those questions and provide you some resources in order to kind of navigate to the best fit related to backup power options and what kind of emergency preparedness support programs that we provide. Craig mentioned that we do, during PSPS events, stand up community crew vehicles and community resource centers, which we'll go into a little bit more. During an event, I really wanted to stress this in particular, that we do actually have a person dedicated as an access and functional needs supervisor to help engage community-based organizations and support customers with AFN during PSPS activations. In addition to the notifications that Craig also covered, we do provide notifications to medical baseline customers and provide follow-ups with individuals that may not have received a notification, but by providing additional outreach or in-person visits if necessary. We partner with a number of different agencies and our public safety partners to help ensure the community safety is part of our process. And we work with various CBOs and generator and rebate programs to help provide access to our customers with the types of programs and resources that they may be looking for during these types of events. So we can go to the next slide. Community resource centers and community crew vehicles provide a number of different services during an event. You may have the option to charge a device such as medical or even portable medical equipment. You have the opportunity to update your PSPS outage alert notifications, and you also have access to water, snacks, as well as insulation bags for medication and things of that nature. We do have the ability to provide additional support for customers with access and functional needs, including wheelchairs, privacy screens, as well as support for service animals. We provide translation services for over 120 languages. And we also want to make sure that we're connecting folks that might need it with our partners at 211. And so when we look at our customer programs, we do encourage customers to reach out to our 211 partners that can help either provide emergency preparedness and care coordination prior to an event or make the necessary connections during a PSPS event. So this can include food banks, hotels, hot meal delivery, and transportation and temporary lodging during a PSPS event to make sure that we're providing the necessary support for customers. We also launched the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program. This is in partnership with various independent living centers throughout our service territory that make sure that we have the right specifications and the ability to support folks that are electrically dependent and help them create an emergency plan if they can reach out to their local independent living center. And I believe I put the link to the DDAR program in the chat. We are broadening our communication efforts by including ASL translations in our notifications as we continue to refine our communication and programs for our customers. Last but not least, we will go into much more depth for all of the backup power options, but we do have a free battery offering for critical care battery backup. This is for eligible customers that have medical devices during a PSP event and in high fire risk area. We also launched our in-event loan battery. So maybe you haven't signed up for the medical baseline program just yet, or you hadn't received your battery. We do have the ability to dispatch a battery and get one to your house within 24 hours is the goal to make sure that we can support customers during PSPS activations. Second, or last but not least, we do have various rebates and portable batteries that can help address larger and different accommodations that are subsidized or have additional upfront incentives for customers residing in a high fire risk area that are available on the marketplace.se.com that you see on the slide here. We can go to the next slide. One of the things that we recognize as part of PSPS events is that financial hardship is a challenge for a number of individuals in our service territory. So we do provide offerings that support low income through rate discounts. We have two particular programs that we have on the slide here, which is our CARE program, which provides a discount of about 30% to eligible customers. These are also customers that may be eligible for other programs such as Medi-Cal and CalFresh and things of that nature. There are income guidelines for CARE enrollment, and we also have a complementary program called our FARA program that has up to 18% reductions in bills associated with households. So again, customers must be eligible for income guidelines to apply for our FARA program. And this helps individuals with their affordability with their bills associated with that. And it also lets us know that if we need to make some additional accommodations for a low-income individual, that we can support them during a PSPS event. The next slide covers some complementary offerings associated with CARE and FARA programs. This is the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP. This is a program that's actually established by the Community Services Development. It is a federal low-income housing program or housing assistance that can provide energy assistance as well as energy crisis intervention and low-income weatherization to help make sure that the house is comfortable, in addition to complementary programs such as the CARE program. So eligible customers may receive funds for weatherization or even financial assistance to directly pay Edison to help support bill payment associated with their utility bill. Next, we can go into the next offering, which is our Energy Assistance Fund. This helps income qualified residential households pay their electric bill. There is a maximum of about $200 that is available once every 12 months. And we support approximately 10,000 families on an annual basis. And this is funded through voluntary donations from SE employees, shareholders, as well as customers to help support customers receive access to these funds to help pay their bills. Next, we can go into our programs that we kind of mentioned is a medical baseline allowance program, and we'll spend a little bit of time on this program because it's very important for us as a utility during PSPS events. This program is for residential customers who rely on power to operate medical devices, equipment, or have certain conditions or mobility needs. It is not an income eligibility program, so obviously medical conditions can affect a wide range of people. We want to make sure that people are enrolled in the MBL program. They do receive additional electricity per day at the lowest rate. That is one benefit associated with it. We do a lot of outreach associated with the medical baseline program with community and faith-based organizations to make sure that we're getting the message out about that. There is a little information about how you can qualify for this program on the right-hand side. There is more information at the website in the bottom right. What I would suggest is that if you have some uncertainty or you're thinking about your medical device not being included in the list, I will say that the list may not be exhaustive. It is always updated and encourage folks to apply, and that'll be reviewed to make sure that we're bringing more people into the MBL program as possible. We can go to the next slide. So this is really about how do you apply. There's multiple ways that you can accomplish it. You can apply online on that website, sce.com/MBL. You can print an application. You can even call us and request an application. We do require a medical provider signature as a part of this, and applications for enrollment are typically processed within 30 days of receipt. And so earlier I mentioned additional notifications that we make associated with medical baseline customers. Once program or individuals enroll in this program, if we send a notification and there's no confirmation of receipt, we'll actually potentially dispatch a field service representative to go knock on the door to make sure that folks are okay during a PSPS event. And we can go to the next slide, where we'll talk a little bit about the critical care battery backup program. This is one of many battery options available to customers. This particular program does require that individuals are enrolled in our medical baseline allowance program and that you reside in a high fire risk area to be able to be eligible to receive a free portable battery backup to temporarily power medical devices during an event of an outage or another type of emergency. So customers are sent information, and contractors will basically reach out to these individuals and make sure that they can enroll eligible independent customers and make sure that they have the right battery size that we're able to provide, and set up a delivery and set up the ability to charge it at the customer's home to make sure that we can provide these batteries to eligible customers. And so we've done a number of different efforts to expand program eligibility and marketing associated with this program. I think as noted in the chat that these batteries are of a certain size, and so we will definitely go through the next slide where we'll talk a little bit about some additional options, where we do have portable power stations and generator rebates available. So this can be additional access to backup or larger backup power systems, as well as generators. There are some additional rebates for those that live in a high fire risk area that are eligible here. And so in combination with our critical care battery backup program, these additional rebates and the ability to reach out to our 211 and DDAR partners to help customers that need access to electricity during these events have a plan in place and the resources in place in order to work through a PSPS activation. And so we definitely appreciate the feedback we receive as a part of these town hall meetings. So please keep the chats coming in and the recommendations, and really appreciate that. So we can go to the next slide where we will hand it back to Carolyn and kind of walk through some additional information for you all to consider as part of this.
Ryan. So here we have a web page that is www.sce.com/wildfire. And here you will find information about resources related to wildfire and PSPS. If you have questions, you can contact us by email, social media, or by phone. For information about the grid hardening activities in your county, please visit on.sce.com/wildfire progress report. You can also sign up to receive the PSPS alerts and update your contact information if needed. And we would ask that you also please review all the programs and services that are provided by SCE, especially if you are dependent on electronically powered medical equipment. As Ryan just discussed some of those options. You may be eligible again for the medical baseline program, again, which gives discounts off your bill, or the critical care backup battery program, which is a free portable battery. And then there's additional rebates and incentives that you may also be eligible for on our website. Also, remember, an emergency can happen at any time. And we want to help you make sure that your family, is prepared. So make sure you have a safety preparedness plan. You want to make sure you include some basic supplies, do advanced planning, and just think about, so whether it's a pandemic, an earthquake, or wildfire, preparedness will help everyone cope better and stay safer. So this concludes the formal presentation portion of our presentation. And so now we're going to the Q&A section. So as you see here, this is just a reminder how to submit your questions through the chat. And we do have some questions that have already been submitted and responded to in the chat. So I will start with those questions first that have been responded to in the chat to just bring to everyone's attention in case you had a similar question. And then I'll ask that we please go back to the previous slide. Okay, so starting out, there was one question in the chat. Please see the following link. I'm sorry. Thank you for doing this. We live in a wildfire area and have medical needs. Who can we contact for information about the battery rebate program offered by SCE? So as Ryan went through his presentation, he did cover some of those options, as well as there is a link that we added in the chat that will take you to the access and functional needs page. All of these links will be provided in a recap email that will be sent to you. So you don't have to worry about capturing them now. They will be in the recap email. The next question and response in the chat was, the battery provided only lasts 45 minutes for an oxygen compressor. This is not useful when outages are hours to days long. Any other suggestions on what a person with critical medical devices needs? So again, this is another one that was covered in Ryan's presentation. He did also include a link in the chat that provides information and resources that lead you to customer resources and support page on sce.com. He also mentioned that during a PSPS event, you can call 211 or DDAR, which is the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Contact Center, to access additional accommodations. And then again, there's additional options related to backup power that you can see at the link that was provided, and again will also be provided in the email that we'll send out. Okay, let's see.
And Carolyn, just while you pull up the next one, I did want to highlight as a part of those backup battery options, you will see one for a program called S-CHIP, which is Self-Generation Incentive Program, which does cover more holistic home-based solutions, which is what I think the customer was sort of alluding to or looking for. So that might be something to look for as well, but that also is included in the link. I just wanted to make sure that that S-CHIP name was mentioned as a part of this.
Thank you very much for that, Ryan. And I know that was one question that someone also had about SGIP. And then I do see there was a question that just came in at the very end. Will everyone on this call right now receive the email? And yes, it will go out to everyone that's on this call, as well as anyone who registered to participate. They will receive a recap. They'll receive the link to the video, the recording, as well as the links that we're discussing here. Okay, so I think I covered all of the responses that were in the chat with a link. And so now we will go into the specific questions that have yet to be addressed. So it looks like the first question will be, how likely is it to have a PSPS event in an area where the grid has already been hardening, poles replaced, etc.? In Agua Dulce area, I'm just wondering if there are more for areas for those upgrades that have not been done or are not necessary or not necessarily done.
Answer that, Caroline. So when we're looking at PSPS, we have risky conditions in areas where the grid has already been hardened. So we have higher thresholds for de-energization. So in areas where we already have cover conductor, there's the 40 mile per hour sustained and 58 mile per hour gusts, as opposed to 31 mile per hour and 46 mile per hour gusts for bare conductor. So that's something we look at when determining PSPS events, along with the fuel when it comes to the I'm sorry, the fuel that's out in the area. We also align this with the National Weather Service high wind warning level for wind speeds at which infrastructure damage may occur. This means that in these areas we still have PSPS events in extremely risky weather, but we might de-energize later when the winds meet the higher thresholds.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Our next question is, it's also kind of related to the grid hardening. So it's great to see all the activities, but it's really hard to tell how far you've come along on the journey. Please think about a way to measure quantitatively your hardening maturity and compare it to the goals, so it's easier for your customers to know where you are against your goals.
So appreciate the question. So we do publish updates on our different wildfire mitigation activities on a quarterly basis. So this report does break down the progress according to county, and our primary objective is always to protect public safety, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So if you want to go to the quarterly progress report on our wildfire mitigation activities, we'll provide a link. It's the Q1 2024 WMP progress updates at edison.com, where you can get updates on all of our wildfire mitigation activities and how we're progressing towards our overall targets.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, do you have a map showing where these activities have occurred, the hardening activities?
Yes, we do, and we could provide that in the chat as well.
Okay. And it looks like that information is at the same link that you just mentioned earlier.
That's correct.
Thank you. The next question, let's see. So it says that is not an option for someone needing home care or other outside services who don't travel to different cities where accommodations are available. SCE needs to do better to accommodate backup power for customer with critical needs. So I think this is just in relation to maybe some of the information that Ryan shared, a comment, and then I think you have additional information.
Yeah, that's what totally recognize the critical care battery backup program does serve a specific window of time. That's why we definitely want to encourage folks to reach out with our partners at 211 and DDAR to help create that customized emergency plan, assess additional battery options or what other additional things might be needed. What I was referring to is that they will provide some transportation services, make accessible accommodations. We understand that that might be challenging, is sort of what the premise of what you're saying is, I believe, and that's where we might have to look at something more substantive, like utilization of the self-generation incentive program. That's really more focused on a whole home solution to help meet those sort of needs. And so really have a different portfolio of options and really working with our DDAR partners to make sure that we're steering you in the right direction is probably the best course of action there.
Thanks, Ryan. So the next question is, when your people come to trim trees, they trim to about a few inches below the branches that interfere with lines. Then the trees promptly grow into the lines again in a short time. And after they have been interfering with the lines for a long time, the crews come and cut them again. Wouldn't it be a lot more efficient to trim the trees at least several feet below the lines?
Yeah, so on that, when we're trimming trees, we usually like to trim a minimum of a 12-foot clearance from a power line. So that's our minimum 12-foot clearance.
Thanks, Craig. What is the progress, if any, towards burying the lines in Sierra Canyon? Sierra Canyon? Like mainly near their house?
Yeah, so part of our ongoing wildfire mitigation efforts, we are undergrounding our overhead distribution lines in severe risk areas to continue to reduce the threat of wildfires. Our underground systems increase the reliability, obviously, as you guys know, during high winds and storms. If you want to kind of see where we're scoping these areas for targeted underground by county, you can go to the targeted undergrounding county maps dated March 2024 at sce.com to see if your residence is going to be undergrounded.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did mention SGIP earlier, so there was a question, do you have a phone number or someone who can help with the SGIP program battery rebates? So there is an email address, and you can also go to the website, which is sce.com/SGIP, or you can email sgipgroup@sce.com. The next question is PSPS only where there is a power outage due to fire, or is it also when the power outage due to fire prevention?
So as I mentioned earlier, depending on whether the lines are bare conductor or covered, right? There's wind thresholds, gusts of wind criteria that we follow. But we shut off lines to prevent a spark from our equipment starting a significant wildfire. It primarily impacts these circuits in high fire risk areas, but it's based on high winds and fuels in the area.
Thank you. The next question is, my house and neighborhood houses are in the LA County high fire risk zone. Is your vegetation management, do they take care of the dried grass, plants, vegetation along your power lines from one tower to another tower? We have asked LA Parks and Recreation to clean up, which they do, but cannot enter your power corridor as the area is leased to SCE and under your control. We desperately need your help to clean up those dried vegetation, which is the fuel for wildfire if the cable falls down and sparks a fire.
Yeah, so we do have a regulatory requirement to maintain bare soil vegetation clearances at the base of certain poles and towers in the CAL FIRE state responsibility area. We also strive to maintain vegetation clearances at the base of select poles and high fire risk areas. That information can be found at se.com/safety/power lines. But if you do have any vegetation management activities or any concerns, you can also reach out to safetrees@sce.com to share any of your concerns that you have about trees near our power lines.
Thanks, Craig. And again, all of these links will be provided in the follow-up email to you. The next question is, can you please share key preventative action homeowners can take to harden off their homes? And are there any incentive programs to help with the cost of hardening off our homes to better prepare for fires?
Yeah, so CAL FIRE provides resources on home hardening. So you can visit fire.ca.gov/home hardening for additional information.
Thank you.
And yeah, I would just add to that to say that grid hardening your house does also come with the obligation or the opportunity, I should say, making sure that there's emergency preparedness for you and your family, and making sure that you have the right equipment available during a power outage or anything like that. And if for folks who need some help doing that care coordination is what we would call it, you can call 211, or you can actually go to our website and go through sort of a checklist of things that you might need to consider during a power outage.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so the next question is, can you provide a website to see if we are in a high fire risk area and who determines these areas?
So the CPUC determines these high fire threat areas, and you can view their maps and designations, and we'll provide the links, but they're at fire threat maps and fire safety rulemaking, which is at ca.gov. And we have ArcGIS, which is CPUC high fire threat districts. So these are links that we can provide to all of you.
Okay. So here's another question. Please provide clarification on the number of batteries customers can purchase using the rebate process.
Yeah, I think we responded to that in the chat. It's 5 batteries, the battery rebates, and I believe 1 for the generators. Let me just double check that statement real quick. It's on my slide. Hold on. I think I put it in the chat. Yeah, it's 5 and 1, depending if it's a battery or a generator. Sorry.
Okay, and I'm just doing one last check to see if there's any questions that are outstanding. Okay. So I think I see a question that maybe we haven't responded to yet. Does SCE offer rebates on gasoline power generators that can be used during power outages?
Yes, and you can find it on the yes for gasoline. They're actually dual fuel, and you can find that on the marketplace website that will be sent out on this deck.
Okay, thank you.
There's also one about solar panels for generators, and so there are portable power stations that can be paired with solar panels that you can also find on Marketplace.
Thank you. And I think I see a question about, identifying the impacted area. I think we addressed that with, you can look on the map and find that information. And again, the links will be provided. So that also addresses the PSPS zones. Let's see, thank you. Okay, looks like there's a couple of questions around batteries. I think we've addressed that. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions that need to be addressed. Let's see, there's a new one that popped in. Oh, so there is one that just popped up. Are you saying that we can qualify for 5 batteries to help with our appliances during a power outage?
I'm saying, yeah, I think that the rebate program provides an additional incentive for pieces of the cost related to power stations, but that is very different than the critical care battery backup program, which provides free battery backup for folks on medical baseline.
And there is another question as it relates to Marketplace. Someone is looking for maybe contact information to kind of understand the processing of the rebate. They live in a tier 3, but their address is not recognized to process the rebate request. So Ryan, do you know if there's for Marketplace, is there someone they can reach out to ask of the status of their rebate, or their address is not identified? I guess it's a tier 3. What are some options that they could use?
Well, if you're not an HFRA, the Marketplace would still allow you to purchase a generator or portable power station, but you wouldn't necessarily qualify for a rebate. So that's something that you would be dependent on your address. We'll make sure we have like an email to follow up with where questions for status on rebates and things can go for that program.
So there was a question comment. So your vegetation management told our neighbor watch group that they can only clean up dried brush 20 feet around the tower base. Is that true? And how about the strip of corridor? Do you want to address that one, Craig?
Yeah, don't know that one specifically. We're gonna have to can that provide a response.
Okay, just checking to see if there's anything else that we may have missed. Okay, so for we can provide an answer for the last question. If you want to, you can email us some additional information. I think, oh, it's not on this slide. When we respond with the email, it'll have additional contact information. Again, if you have follow-up questions. Let's see. So, okay, I think we already answered that one about the rebates. Okay, I think we may have covered all of the questions. There was one about the solar generation. We talked about that. Yeah, I think we may have covered all of the questions. All right, so I want to thank you all for your time and attention this evening and participating. On the screen, you'll see the QR code. So please take time to provide your feedback on this evening's event. In addition to the survey link, the presentation will also be emailed to everyone who registered for the event, as well as the recording. And then we'll make sure to add all of the additional links that may have been added in the chat for tonight's meeting so that you also have those resources. And again, we want to thank you for joining us this evening and receiving this information. Have a good evening.